Hey, what's going on, guys? Going to jump right into talking about offensive concepts. Now, when you are a coach of one side of the ball, knowing the other side is just as important as knowing your side. And breaking down the information so that it makes sense to you and your players is very crucial. So, every defensive book in the NFL, college, high school goes through a whole thing about formations, what we call them, different types of plays that we got to talk about. But I really want to show you guys when it comes to the passing game how it's broken down. This is the Denver Broncos, how we broke down the passing game. And a lot of NFL teams have a nomenclature that kind of goes back to the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. Mike Nolan back in the mid 2000s put together kind of like this overall concept of NFL routes and how they affect the defense, and you start grouping these things together, which is going to help us when we jump on the field, understand how people are attacking us. And then from there, we can start going back to our coverage concepts and starting to put them together. All right. So that, hey, do we want to run man, match, or pure zone? Right. And then which one of those, specific plays from each categories works well against that route. That's pretty much what defensive DB coaches, defensive coordinators, linebacker coaches deal with on a week to week basis. Most people run about maybe 5 to 6 major concepts. Once you figure those out, you just have to match your coverages that you like to run to them. And then maybe you want to dig into your toolbox and find something that can really kind of stop what they're doing. And then during the game, you're constantly going to that toolbox. You're constantly talking to your coaches and players about what type of adjustments you can make, meaning how can we change our coverage to maybe take away what they want to do. Okay. So let's just talk about it real quick. Some of the stuff is kind of not necessarily about the type of routes, like quick game. We used to just group them all together and then give them the specific name. So when you look at it, it's going to be labeled in the computer system as quicks, right? So all three of these plays here would be labeled as quicks. So that if we want to go and watch all the quicks on one video, you can sort it by quicks. But now, obviously, each play has its own name, right? So you can sort it by first by group, then by name, and then you kind of figure out, hey, how many times have they run certain things in certain situations? So we're not going to spend a lot of time on the quick game. A lot of people don't really run quick game in Madden, so I won't waste our time on that. Let me go down to the next thing here. Movements, again, this is more of a category of the type of play. Now we'll get into, I'll come back to movements later because you can see the majority of the plays kind of have a theme to them. And I want to teach you the theme first, okay? Screens, the same thing, different types of screens, but they're in one category. So let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this. This is talking about inside stack, okay, or stack inside. These are routes that basically form a high-low, I would say, right? And they are coming from the same side of the field, all right? So something like this play right here we called wrap, okay, wrap 6. We use some numbers sometimes to talk about the type of route it is, and 6 is a common digit number talking about a dig. Okay, so we have somebody that's running basically, let's say a 10 to 15 yard dig with somebody underneath running an option route. So you kind of get that high, low stretch if you look at it from an offensive standpoint. And usually you're trying to attack some sort of defender that's in that area, right? So right off the bat, you can tell me right now that, hey, if I'm playing spot drop zone, this is one play that could potentially beat spot drop zone, right? If you play man to man, you might be able to defend this a lot easier. And if you play match, depends on the type of match you play. So you have to find the match coverage that kind of stops this route. All right. I love that route in the game. I don't really use it as much as I used to, but that route's pretty good. All right, here goes another one, like F angle, right? We talked about this like in the West Coast language. So you kind of have this guy running through. He could be running a post. He could be running anything that's a vertical route. And then you get something underneath it here. This is an angle route. Okay, so that's in the same category of inside stack. Now, something like this, topper, which, some people call, I forgot what they call it, some other, I'm pretty sure this is called a Mills concept, right, in the game. That's the situation where it's a little bit deeper down the field, but you're getting that deep post with that 10-yard dig. So you're probably affecting who? Some sort of deep player. right? So if you play quarters coverage in the match world, the safety, he's in a bind technically. Is he going to jump the 12-yard dig, or is he going to sit on this big post that's coming here? The corner will stay with the post, but he may be out of position to help to really make a play on it, right? So you guys get the idea. So basically, inside stack is anything that's between the numbers where you get two routes on top of each other. Okay, we'll talk about it on the Madden field, but I think there's some common concepts that happen in Madden that people will try to create. All right. The main one that I see a lot is, let's just say it's a 3-by-1 and they run somebody vertical because a lot of people like to hot route somebody vertical, and they basically take somebody like number 2 and number 1 and just run them on a slant, right? To me, that's in the inside stack category. Okay. All right. So let me keep on going a little bit faster here with the rest of this. I want you guys to see all the concepts because then when we get on the Madden field, I'll break down the most popular plays and maybe talk to you guys about how we can kind of define them. And this is actually going to help you even versus teams that like route people to 50 different things. Because at the end of the day, it's going to fit into some category. Okay. All right. So the outside stack, all right, is basically the same idea, except we're going outside the numbers. And it's two players on the same side. So you don't really see this a whole lot. The biggest one that you would see is the one thing that you need to understand. Usually, this is talking about number 1 being a deeper route. Okay. This isn't necessarily number 1 running a short route. Okay. So I don't like this example here, snag. I kind of would take that out if I could. But something like what we call star or seal or just double arrows in the game, number 1's running something deep, and usually number 2 is also running something deep. Okay, so you don't get the outside stack as much as in Madden, probably that much. I can't really think of an example. So that one is kind of not really a big one. All right, so that's good. We can keep it moving. The next thing here is China. Now, this is a big one. All right. I think China's coming back more than ever. I know in the sim leagues I play, a lot of people run China. If you followed my Tom Moore indie offense, this is a major concept, right? So what we have here is a different form of outside stack, but this is one where the number 1 receiver is running something short. Okay, 5-yard in route or fin route, right? A little hitch route. So the classic ones are like your smash combinations, right? We call it China 7 to give it some specific names, China 6, but that would just be smash, right? With the indie concept. It could be 3-by-1 as well. Maybe not 3-by-1. They might put that in a different category. But the thing is, this is attacking where? Outside the numbers still. All right. So it's an outside stack. But we just called it China just to give it a different name because this is honestly the most popular one. So if I had to redo this over again, when you get older, you look at the stuff, you're like, really, this probably would be a little more simple just calling it all outside stack, but that's fine. All right. Now, drive is its own concept, okay? This is a concept where you're going to have, and this is big in Madden, you're going to get a drag route in Madden. That's what it's called, right? You're going to get a drag, and usually drive is coming from the same side, okay? Where one outside receiver goes inside, goes underneath some sort of outside receiver, okay? So this guy usually runs a dig. We know that, but it could be a 7 route or it could just even be a vertical route. Again, anything that's over 10 yards, we're going to call it a vertical. Really, the main thing is that this drive is working across the field in that fashion, like you would get as a drag, which we know in Madden right now is OP. So right off the bat, I would say inside stack you have to be aware of. You need to be aware of the China plays, and then you need to be aware of drive, right? So those are 3 big concepts that you're going to see a lot when you play, and you want to start labeling them. And there's different types of plays, but you just put it in a category, right? All right, levels to them. Now, this is an old school way of calling levels, but levels is 2 crossers now. Opposite, it's kind of like basically running drive, except now you're going to get an inside guy is running the drag and some sort of outside guy is running deep. In the game, I think they call this follow, if I'm not mistaken. The old school NCAA concept gives you the same concept right here. Okay. So levels for us back in the day was that. I wouldn't worry about this one too much. I think in the Madden world, we probably won't use it. Opposite levels, though, is going to be big. Okay. Opposite levels, honestly, if I was coaching in the situation right now, I would probably consider, yeah, I guess I would have to put it in the same category. That's fine. I might give it a different name. because really, honestly, mesh is like the biggest one that's going to show up, right? So mesh goes into opposite levels. What is opposite levels? Okay, it involves two crossing routes, one shallow. Okay, so it could be right here in the beginning. It could be one drag, right, and then you have some sort of route sitting over the ball, an OTB route, right? They're coming from the opposite side. That's the big point. Now, mesh gives us multiple drags, two drags, and the OTB route, right? NCAA gives us this one here. This is traditional NCAA, gives us the drag, and then you get the dig coming from over here, right? So we have a bunch of different versions. You can see the other ones below. So opposite levels is big. You can't just say mesh is the only play, but mesh is the most popular version of this. But if you did get somebody who was running some sort of dagger concept, right, which by itself can be its own specific concept, right, which would be what, inside stack, compared to also having the guy run across the field, it's opposite levels and inside stack. So when this happened in football, we would usually choose to name the concept to where the ball went, just to make it simple. Once we get an idea of their favorite plays and how they run their offense, then maybe we would say, hey, we know they're trying to throw the dagger. They're just using that shallow as a check down. But the main thing is it is going to affect your defense in a specific way. So we want to be able to visualize how it's going to affect our defense, who's in a bind on those plays, right? Just a quick note. I like to tell you guys stories. I don't know if it makes things better. And we're almost done with this little part here. When I used to watch as a DB coach, I would be in the box most of the time, right? And I can see everything. And it's hard to see everything because you're so far away. Sometimes it's easier to look at like one half of the field and then kind of like blink the other, especially if you're on the field. But the main point is, I would actually just watch the offensive routes, right? So I would watch it from the offensive point of view, and I'm trying to collect all the information because I wrote down every single route that happened in the game live time to show the guys at halftime, right? I would draw it on paper. So I know the route concept. And if they, let's say we're playing quarters, right? And they run scissors. Um, I'm looking at the route and I don't even really always see my players and how they're reacting to the route. But I know where they should be and I know who's going to be in a bind. Okay, so if somebody gets open, let's say they catch the corner route and we were in just quarters coverage and we were playing lock quarters, I'm going to say, man, the safety here in quarters probably got out leveraged on the corner route. So then maybe I can go and watch. At that time when I was coaching, we had photos and I can see where he is at the snap. I can see where he is about like 3 seconds into the play. And I'm like, oh, he's not in good position. Oh, he jumped it too late, whatever it might be. And then you talk to the player and then they would tell you what happened too. But the point is, I would know where the problems are in all the coverages that we run. So let's say we called cover two and they threw the post. And I'm like, well, that's not right. I mean, that means my deep half field safety should be over the top of these things. Why is the post wide open? Did he start getting too much width and couldn't recover? So those are the answers, So I just want to say, like, when you're looking at it from when you're looking at football, you should be able to start visualizing how the players should start reacting depending on what coverage you're in. All right. Anyway, I don't know if that helps or not, but let's just move on to the next one. Layers, okay? So layers to me is really the most popular thing I think in Madden, especially when it comes to a lot of the compression sets. Is basically flood and scissors concepts, okay? So we get three routes going to the outside originating from the same side of the ball, okay? And then if we get, so let me just show you this one. Sail's probably the biggest one. Vertical, corner, side of the flat. That's three levels, basically. One is the deep one, the corner is the second deepest, and then the flat. So they're trying to basically like super stack outside, basically on one side to the outside. Okay. And that's going to always mess with coverages, like let's say a cover three, where you may only have two players to cover. So in cover three, we have a corner who's going to take the deepest, and then we have some sort of flat defender. I'm just going to put the letter F, who has to basically cover the intermediate corner route and also the flat route. So again, if we're playing true zone, sail is a good concept versus true zone. However, it's not a good concept versus something like three match because three match would have the corner taking one vertical. Let's just say we have a safety here. He's going to match on to the corner route because that's his rules. And then our linebacker here is going to match three, like man to man. So because of the route combination, this turns into a man coverage, and that takes care of three guys going out to one side. People always ask me, when do you like to play three match? What does it stop? Well, it stops outside breaking routes more than anything else. But the numbers are there. Now, where's your weakness? So again, if we call three match, right? I'm going to go back to my example, and I'm watching the offense and I'm trying to write down the routes, and they throw the ball to the running back in the flat, and he gets like 10 yards. What am I going to say? It's three match. I didn't have to see what happened to the backer. He might flash in my vision, but that means the backer got beat. He either, stayed inside too long or he just got beat with his ability. So when you start game planning, you tell yourself, I have to, if I want to play three match versus the team this week, I have to get my fastest linebacker to decide where they might run it, right? Or we need to, change personnel. Or we can't run it because I don't trust that my guy can do it. Or there are other teams out there, higher level guys in the graduate level courses understand that you could treat this like a fast three, have your strong safety go to the flat and have your backer run with this because he's closer to it, right? So initially when he lines up, those are the adjustments you could play. You could say, you know what, I just don't like it. Let's just play quarters style. So now, we know that the safety is going to play that pretty well because he's outside of it already. And then the backer, he's going to be very conscious of that right now, and he's going to go get that, whatever it might be. Okay. So I just want to give you some examples of that stuff. It kind of breaks down and makes it really simple. Eventually, you're going to be like, yo, there really isn't that many options to do certain things. It's pretty much, am I going to try to, play zone and let my guys react? Am I going to play a zone where I have more players than they have? Am I going to play man where I can match up on things? Am I going to play match where I can get the best of both worlds? And if I do the best of both worlds, can I teach my players this? Is it going to be too much teaching? Is it too many routes to cover? Right? Are there some problems that they're going to be able to get one play touchdowns on us? Right? That's where you have to decide. Is it worth it? All right. So let's move on to opposite layers. This is probably my favorite one here, just to kind of talk about because a lot of people don't really think about it like this. So really right now you have two concepts, right? But it really turns into the idea that they're running layers and they're taking the low guy from the opposite side of the field to be kind of that check down, right? So if you looked at this play, you might break it down in different ways to start and be like, well, it's just really one half of the field's doing this. But no, as soon as they start bringing a third guy over, which happens a lot, you're going to, and so especially play action, it becomes an opposite layers, okay? So maybe you need to have some sort of linebacker become a wall player, which means he needs to cut this guy off so he doesn't get involved. Maybe you take a corner and man him up so he takes care of that guy, and you don't have to worry about teaching the people on this side of the field to look for somebody coming back on the opposite side, okay? All right, so opposite layers, okay? And then I think we have only a few more left, some basic ones, okay? Okay, so overs. Overs are in the category of really on those play action plays, cross country, Yankee concepts, things like that you guys know from a lot of the Shanahan style offense. You're going to get some deep crossing route. This is a big thing when it comes to the NFL because we need to decide how we're going to handle a deep crossing route. If you don't have a rule for it, sometimes it breaks your coverage rules. So we can talk about that more later, but you need to basically adjust to that route. Verticals, you guys should know what that is. It's all go special. Anything where you get basically 3 or 4 guys going vertically down the field. Usually I never understood why Dino actually was in this one. That's just double post. I'm going to show you the concept coming up here soon. I think where this play, I think better fits. I'm not sure why they ever did that. That was always a point of contention for me. And then, so we have verticals. You and I, we all know, this is the reason why we like to play match 3, right? It turns into cover 1 on the fly, right? All right, horizontals. You don't get this as much as you think. Honestly, when it comes back to the quick game, I would put spacing into this into this category. But they usually are trying to get 4 or 5 guys out underneath in the intermediate to the flat, to the short zones. So that's horizontals, okay? So curls, usually you do have somebody run into the flat to kind of pull coverage. You're trying to stretch the defense horizontally. verticals are stretching the defense vertically, but also still horizontally. So verticals to me has always been a combination of vertical and horizontal together. Don't let people just tell you that it's all about just going down the field vertically. Okay. All right. Let's keep it moving. You can see there's a lot of different categories, right? You got to learn this when you're a QC. You're breaking down film, and even every coach needs to be on the same page. There's always going to be different philosophies of what you should call something, especially the specific names. Most coordinators have a certain way of calling routes, right? All right, individuals, pretty much the last big one. So individuals are routes that don't intersect. Okay, so something like follow is a good example. Even though this is a horizontal stretch, I can see somebody saying that, but it's really like individual routes that get down the field that don't intersect. All right, and it's important to have this category because honestly, individual routes can be stopped with zone coverage, right? So let's just go something like good old middle read. This is a good example, right? They have options to run vertical goes, they can run comebacks, whatever, and then you got a guy sitting here who's working the middle of the field, right? I know they have checkdowns going out to the flat, but when the play starts, it's just three routes going vertical, okay? If you run zone coverage to this, you can take away those sit down routes, right? And then eventually I know they can check it down, but that's okay. If they run something like just two verts and two options on the inside, it's easy to just say, hey, if we play zone, we can basically have four guys underneath, take away those two option routes. We could play cover three over the top, stay over the top of those verticals. They're kind of dead. Okay. Individual routes are good versus man coverage. So from an offensive standpoint, if you're playing a lot of man coverage, right, and they know that, they're going to run option routes, right? They're going to run a route where they're going to read the leverage of the corner. If you stay on top, we sit down. If you stay underneath, then we're going to keep going. Okay. And also this one here, this follow play, again, we're going to try to beat across your face. Most of the time the ball goes to two. So it kind of becomes like a double move option that's not going deep. That's where an offense is going to try to counter you if you want to play a lot of man type coverages. Okay. But going back to what I talked to you guys about match coverage, you can kind of halfway in between play match coverage to this stuff and get away with it on the inside. On the outside, most match coverages are going to turn into man anyway once the guy goes past 10 yards. So again, an offense will run individual routes. If you ever go and look at any of the stuff I talk about, any of the stuff that any other content creator, I think Ken Burkert, he does a good job. People would run routes like, have a 3x1 route like this. This might be here honestly not for the follow part, but for the comeback. And say, hey, alert! If you get one-on-one coverage, like they rotate to cover one, and you get a nice matchup over here. If you like that, take the comeback, right? Versus the one-on-one coverage. I do that in Madden a lot, right? As I'm going back, I'm dropping back. I see it's cover one. I see it's single high. There's free access, what we call free access, meaning like there's nobody standing underneath the window of the comeback. There's no flat defender standing there. Just throw the comeback. Just take the easy route. And that's why a lot of people put their best receivers on the backside and give them what we call individual routes to win versus coverage. Okay. So going back to this, even something like follow here, I wouldn't put this in individual. This whole thing, I understand why it's there. I follow, I get it up here. This one here, this intersection going on. So this one's kind of an interesting one. That one would be in a double category that I would probably have to talk about with whoever the coach is, but you're pretty much getting a drag, right? And then you're getting kind of like almost a stack, an outside stack or a China stack, right? But that double move, that makes it tough. And that's always the part that they're trying to beat you. That's a box beater right there. If you were trying to wonder why people were doing that, they're trying to run two routes to the inside, one by starting somewhere, going out and coming back in, or it could be the opposite. If you guys watched the video that X and O did recently, he talked about the whip return route or the return play, and that's the opposite of an angle follow 7 play. It's the same theory, it's just going the opposite way. So if you watch that video, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I made this a long video. I know I did. It's a lot of talking and not a lot of Madden stuff, but hey, I think this is good for guys to understand because I'm going to start piecing this stuff together. I want to teach you guys how to fish. So once you piece all the stuff that I'm telling you about, hey, these are your options on defense, This is what they're doing to you on offense. You can go figure it out yourself. When you go up against an opponent or you see somebody playing online in the MCS and they're running like one concept to one side and another to the other, you can be like, oh, okay, they're running an inside stack over there. I know what beats that. I know how I can stop that. On the other side, they're running an individual. So I know I should probably be, if I can, maybe I would like to play like a cover three zone, being cautious of the inside stacked, side. But that cover three zone is gonna take away that individual route that they want to run, right? So we'll talk about that some more. Double move, read concepts. Let's leave them out for now. It's pretty obvious, right? It's just a way to kind of categorize things. The read concept, I would actually put that with the. I understand why they want to put that in there because there are certain deep play action plays that read what you do, so you can't be right. So if you sit high, if you sit high, they're stop low, and vice versa. So that's that. And I did say I was going to go back to the real quick to the movements. So the reason why I didn't want to talk about this is because now you should be able to see what this is. So this is going back to like what the opposite layers, right? Kind of, sort of. We're getting three guys working to one side. They're layering the field with this boot play. Okay. You have really two guys coming from the backside, one guy deep, but you're still getting the 1, 2, 3. Okay. Trying to think here. It's funny because this boot play, the regular boot play, is more like an individual, right? There's really no real intersection going on. I guess if you wanted to count this like nope, that's not a China. So it's really just individual, okay? And then you do have that deep crosser, which kind of gets in, is really holding the middle safety. But I would put that more in the individual category. It's not a part of the follow category. It's going to affect your defense differently than how maybe swap boot would, right? Take a look at this as well. So that's pretty much it. I wish we had some better examples of some different boots here, but you kind of have to take the plays and then, from here. So I would call it like movement opposite layers, right? Or the traditional, just call it a 3-level flood. You just call those layers, right? So that's that. All right. So we've done enough of this. Let's go on to Madden Field. Okay. Let's spend the next 10 to 15 minutes and let's just take a look at some of the common concepts we've talked about before. So now you get to understand how I see them. And then let's talk about some stuff that people are doing like online, out of bunch or something like that to kind of talk about, hey, what is some of the meta and how do we call it? What do we call it? And then we can start talking about what defenses that we have already, okay, that we can use. Now, let me just say this to you, and this is to me maybe worth the price of admission, okay? Do not get overloaded with running every single coverage, okay? That's not realistic. I know a lot of people like Saban and Belichick made it seem cool that you can have a million different checks. I honestly believe football is changing that, yes, we want to have checks to stuff and we want to be able to run multiple options. I've always done it myself. Usually 3 is my magic number. So I like to have 3 answers versus each problem. And I kind of stop there. And I think that's something that you might want to consider. But most importantly, it's more important that you understand your coverage and how it works and the weaknesses within it. And then you just try to cover up those weaknesses the best you can, either with talent at the position or by you using something, but not going too far away from your own responsibility. The point is, do what you do best. Don't necessarily always try to find a new answer. Do what you feel comfortable with, even if it's something like stylistically, you like the way cover 2 looks. You're a cover 2 guy because you used to follow Tony Dungy, just like NY Kia used to be. Be a cover 2 guy, okay? I, myself, I've always come into this game ever since I've been talking to you about playing three match and playing quarters. I'm going to figure out every year how I could play 3 match and quarters the majority of the game. All right. I used to also love cover 1. So that used to be really my baby. This year, 3 matches become my new cover 1. But have a personality of what you are, and then it's going to help you learn the weaknesses and maybe sprinkle in an answer or 2. Maybe sprinkle in a cover 9. Maybe sprinkle in a double bracket in certain situations, okay? But don't get overloaded because I know even myself, I can go into a game and if I'm trying to do too much, I end up doing nothing. I usually do a lot better using my favorite system, 3 plays per category, per formation, and just rotate it throughout the game and mix it up that way. and repeat and all that stuff. So I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. So when we get on the field, I'm not going to be able to give you I can't give you an answer list. It's going to take me 4 hours, and I just can't say, hey, this is what you do to every single thing. But I'm going to give you what I like to do, okay? And then you can go now, and because I'm giving you the ideas of understanding coverage, understanding concepts, you can figure out other new ways to stop these plays as well, okay? All right, let's jump on the Madden field. Let's see what we got going on. Okay, I'm just going to come out a couple plays here just to give you some examples. We can't go through them all, guys, but I just want to make sure you understand. And I'm just going to come on and play Cover 3 Sky, which is a coverage I'm starting to use more, just so you know, because I end up checking out of playing match a whole lot anyway. All right, so this is what we call opposite levels, okay? So this is a concept where we're going to get a drag from one side and then some sort of either over the ball route or usually a dig, okay, from the other. So this is called in the West Coast offense, old school, like shallow cross. It would probably be like shallow F basic, okay? And it's just a triangle read where they're going to read Kittle X to Jennings over the middle to the running back checking through. It's a triangle read in the middle. They're just go 1 to 2 to 3. But how does it affect the defense? Well, you're getting you're getting a low crosser from one side and a high from the other, which versus cover 3 could pull down people, right? So we talked about this before, the no cover zone area. So most people understand that right now in Madden, that the no cover zone area is really hard to actually stop them after they catch the ball. So this guy's going to run this drag route, right? And basically this player here should be in leverage position to go tackle it right away. But a lot of times they get too far up the field, this ball is caught, and then the guy runs up the sideline. So that's not what you want. You want him to be in better position to play this play, right? But what are they doing here technically? So this is one type of concept, but what it's doing is it's stretching the defense horizontally and vertically. Because right now, this player here is showing this defender that he's going vertical. He tries to get hands on him for a little bit. He shouldn't shouldn't ride him that long, but he does, okay? And that puts him out of position to cover this player here. So if we know this is the route concept, we don't want our flat defender to get distracted by this kind of like guy working up to 10 yards. We want him to be in position to play this better. So if I'm playing cover 3 Sky and I know I'm getting this type of opposite levels concept, maybe I'm going to play underneath coverage, which does what? It puts the flat defender in a position now where he's not going to jam number 2, and he's going to be ready there to make a play on the ball for the potential of the under route, okay? So if I knew I'm playing somebody who's doing this, I'm going to play more hard flat, okay? I think I can even probably play outside. Let me see. Let me try this one. I've tried this out before. I've talked to you guys about it. Let's see what happens if I just play outside. Okay, no, it still kind of affects the underneath. Outside still has the flat defender jamming number 2, okay? So that's what we're trying to avoid. I'm pretty sure if I went over the top, okay, I'm pretty sure that's going to help me out because he's not going to jam, and now he's going to be able to react up and make a play. All right. And if you use, like, let's say you went into your coaching adjustments and put like your flat defenders at like 5 to 10 yards, they're going to react a lot faster on plays coming down. So that's one way that I just kind of showed you. This is a good play versus zone coverage, right? However, I made an adjustment within the zone coverage that can take away this play. Now, as soon as I start playing hard flats, obviously I open up another can of worms, which could be if somebody wants to run verticals, right? So let's just say they had this guy going straight down the field. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of now a problem, right? So that's when you get into game planning. If somebody's running verticals and they're running this type of shallow cross concept, which I call, from a defense standpoint, opposite levels, now what are you going to do? I don't know, because I'm stuck in a position where maybe this isn't the best coverage. I don't want to be playing the chess match game or just the checkers game, honestly. Sometimes I play regular cover 3 Sky, and sometimes I play hard flat. Maybe you don't want to do that. So maybe now you start saying we need a different coverage, okay? let's see if we went through the process and said, well, you know what? I have better man players than them. And if they're not really going down the field, I'm okay with that. Let's just play man to man, right? But at least now I know that I'm going to have somebody covering. That's the reason why cover one is probably one of the most powerful things to play. But let's just go through this again. You want to find the right man coverage that could take away these plays, right? So if you called cover one whole press versus the same thing, is this going to help you? Well, now you need to understand leverage, okay? So we're going to have a whole player that's sitting in the middle of the field, so that inside dig route is pretty much taken care of, right? We got man on number 2. Can we stop this shallow route across the field? Looks like we can't, right? So that's the problem that arises now. Now you just created a new problem. So you're like, okay, now I need to have a different type of man coverage. Or I can say, you know what? I'm going to help out with my user defender. And I'm going to now say, hey, I'm going to help with this shallow and kind of like cut him and make him throw it to the guy over the ball. Now, technically that guy is open, but if you have a better player, you put your best player at the nickel, now you covered up your weakness. So offenses are so evolved at this point. They have answers to everything you do. Okay. Now, most guys you play online, the average guy may not even understand that and may not ever take advantage of it. That's why, for me, with my experience and what I teach you guys should be much better on defense, just knowing the basics, right? But if you play a top level opponent or some sort of, championship opponent, right? MCS opponent, they're going to always have a counter to what you end up doing. So then that always comes back to matchups at some point. Get your best player in a position in one of your weakest spots that you can basically say, hey, I have a player that has inside shade ability. He is not going to get beat. Even though he's playing outside leverage right now, he's going to play that route better. Right? So that's that. By the way, the best answer to me in this is to play match coverage, like match 3. And then make sure you understand that in match 3, that the shallow route needs to be taken back by the linebacker. We'll talk about that later. But that's just one example. Let's jump into another example here. Yeah, let's talk about the slot fades, okay? I think this is a big play for everybody that people run this play a lot. And let's say you are, a match 3 team. And everybody knows that, this slot fade by itself is what's going to happen is that our corners are going to end up taking number 1, and our flat defenders are going to play number 2, and the flat defender doesn't do a great job versus this route in general. All right, the seam flat kind of gets abused by this route. You can kind of throw it inside leverage. That wasn't a good throw there. You can kind of mess around with the angles on this route. I don't really abuse this route, so I'm not 100% sure how to do it, but I'm sure there's lots of content creators talking about this in general. This is where you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to play 3 match to this, right? Because what's happening is you're getting that outside China concept, right? But what it's doing is what? It's making your man coverage lock on a specific way. So if you really want to play man coverage to this, right, then maybe you want to just end up playing 2-man. That would be my first answer, right? But now I'm thinking also what? Well, if you don't mind giving up that 5-yard hitch route, really, okay, and you don't even have to give it up, let's just say, we can play 3 sky. So now we're back into the 3 sky conversation. And, there's more coverages, guys. Again, I'm just using what I like to use most of the time and what most NFL teams use. Let me just find the play real quick. Apologize. There it goes. Okay, slot fades. So now what we're getting is we get the corner who's going to now be on top of this fade route, okay? And our flat defender, he can go right to the hitch route and stay over the top of that and make you throw the ball short, right? And if you time it up wrong, he could potentially get a pick. So obviously the next step would be I can even use obviously underneath hard flats and take it away. So this combination is pretty simple. With our 2 players versus their 2 players, we can put ourselves in position here to cover this route naturally, all right? So if it was an outside stack play, a true China play, that was something like this. Let me just kind of create one. Old school smash combination, right? We're kind of getting to the same spots, but just a little bit different way. Same thing. Cover 3 hard flats is really good versus this. because our corner is going to play on the corner route, right? And our flat defender is going to be taking away the pitch route. So there's an example there of an easy little two-man concept that people, most people know that coverage, this specific play is best versus cover two, because you have one outside defender trying to cover two guys, right? So that's why when people put in plays, they usually tell you, hey, this is a cover two beater, this is a cover one beater, right? So if I ran, I don't think we have just a regular smash here. I'm just going to do the same thing and make the audible. If I check this play now to a corner, right? What's the problem here in this cover two? Cover two gives you an extra defender underneath, really inside. On the outside, we are trying to basically have this one player play two different spots. He has to play the 15-yard intermediate zone and also the underneath zone in the cloud flat version of this, okay? So if we get this corner out, he's going to back up, right? And that's going to open up the underneath route. That route went a little bit deeper than I ever thought. All right, let me make this a true smoke. I don't know why that route went really deep. True smoke would make it even more noticeable, right? And an offense might be fine with doing that on first down, right? Or on 3rd and 2, right? So that's where that type of zone coverage, not ideal. But other zone coverages or match coverages could be pretty good. If we get that type of smash concept, I like cover 3, seam, cover 3 match. If we get the fade concept, nope, I like cover 3 zone. So that's where you kind of start breaking it down to that further level of what type of play I like versus this type of thing. So there's lots of concepts here, guys. We can go through it. Something that just popped up I have to mention is like these post wheel plays. To me, these are vertical concepts because of the way they come off the ball and they switch right away. Now, in the video game world, you might need to understand what's going on, how that affects the coverage. But in real life, if you get this quick switching right now, there's no difference than if it was just really that the number 2 receiver ran a dig and the number 1 receiver ran a vertical with the quick switch. And that's how most defenses teach it. As soon as you see that quick switch, it's just verticals, right? So you could technically switch these also yourself. So if you're playing quarters, like I'll show you right now, quarters, they should almost what we call zone it, right? So just like how it would be if it was an actual stack formation, as soon as these guys switch, the corner and the safeties to switch responsibilities, have the safeties take that guy coming inside who's going to run the dig or the post, and have the corner sit back and take this other player. And that only happens because of this quick exchange. Right now, it changed, right? If there was any delay, like somebody ran in and out or up the field and in then you just you can stay on your original guy. But this is an easy switch. And when this happens in real life, you would see a corner and a safety talking to each other, like alert the quick switch, alert the switch, alert the play, obviously. But we need to get that program into the game, in my opinion. All right. But to me, that's an individual concept. That's not really any other type of concept where people are crossing. All right. Let's finish up with just some concepts that people run, like in the tournament sessions that I've seen, or like people who run, who play for money and they make a lot of hot routes. Okay, so let's see. There's a couple plays here I've seen from a couple websites. Deep corner's always been a big play. Okay, and I'm just gonna come out versus cover 3 again. This regular 3 sky. Nice way to start, nice and easy. Okay, so this play concept that you see right here, there's 2 things I'll go over real fast. The first, this is scissors on the right. Okay, so that's the layers concept. The outside layers, is that what it's called? Let me double check this again. I think it's just called layers, right? Yeah, just layers, and then it's opposite layers. So what we're getting here is, let's just put this guy on the streak on the outside, right? A lot of people like to try to run this flood concept. And versus cover 3, it's going to be pretty good. As long as I read the flat defender, I did not do that there. So all you have to do now is get an option of throwing it to the corner or throwing it to the flat, right? If that guy stays back, you throw it to the flat. Simple as that. So that would be considered a layers concept, but we understand, depending on the situation, 1st and 10, you can give up a 5-yard flat maybe, okay? 2nd and 10, Definitely. Second and I mean third and 5, third and 10, yeah, give it up. Third and 5, maybe not so. You need to tighten your coverage. It's the reason why you see a lot more man coverages in third down situations, especially when it's third and medium or third and short, because you're trying to get a body on a body. Okay, so that's a concept you see a lot of people run. Now, a lot of people will take something like this and take number 3, put him vertical, take number 1 and put him to the flat. And this would kind of like pull coverage up a lot of times with the corner, right? And open up the flat zone, open up that intermediate zone over here. Okay. Now this year is a little bit different because the way the game is playing cover 3, they're basically shoving everything over underneath. They're playing a lot different, which helps out on these type of routes. So I can see why they programmed it this way versus 3-by-1. But even at this point, this linebacker starts shuffling, and I just throw the ball right into the little sweet spot. Okay. So people who play the game, they're going to know that. They're going to try to abuse it. What's going on with the concept here? What are we getting? Over here, we're getting number 1's going to the flat. So that's automatically a China. Okay. And number 2's running a corner. All right. So we have a China concept there. All right. Also, we have number 3 going vertical. So this is a special tag in my book because a lot of people like to throw number 3, they like to throw seam streaks to people, outside lead them and everything. To me, this is the vertical category, even more than the individual category, because individuals is more about like the outside routes, don't have anybody, they're basically going to, just work or route that beats man coverage. This is more based off of if we ran all go special, right? And there's like a deep crosser from number 3 or vertical by number 3. Somebody has to take care of number 3. So to me, it's the vertical category. This should be taken care of in cover 3. We know it's not always. So the good thing is that our 3-up player is working towards this guy right now, which is wonderful. And then he kind of like delivers him to the safety. If the ball's, he makes the quarterback not be able to throw it right away, and then the quarterback still throws it late, he should get picked off by the safety who's playing deep, right? Okay, so if I had to break down this category, it would be China vertical. Okay, who do they throw the ball to? The vertical. Maybe I put a different tag in there, like vertical of 3 or 3 vert. The backside of this, I think, is just a dig. Yeah. So the backside of this route over here, if they were throwing this ball exclusively with the check down route, this is no different than the first concept we talked about of what? Inside stack. Because we have a check down route and the dig. If inside stack bothers you, right, you can do something to make sure the back doesn't come out because he's check releasing to come out right now. You could blitz somebody. That would keep the back in. And then now you only have to worry about the dig. You start thinking about, all right, China, cover 2. Nope. Cover 2 is not great versus this. That's what China wants to beat. Cover 3 should be fine. So we're good. Cover 4 should be fine. If we play cover 4 versus bunch, it turns into box, and our low outside, our quarter flat defender takes the first to the flat. So we're going to take number 1. Our corner is going to play the first vertical outside, and that's going to be that corner coming right to him. And then we have some other stuff going on. And then the safety here in this situation, he would stay back and take this vertical of 3. I'm pretty sure that's how they would play it out. Okay. If not, there would be a backside poaching safety coming over to help out in quarters. Okay. So as we go along here, guys, and I'll end it with that, we just have concepts that we got to talk about and kind of come up with solutions. And I am of the belief that if you have the same answers, somebody will figure you out. So we're going to have another video here that I've already talked to Coordinator Cruz about it in my Patreon. We need to potentially play defense like offense, guys. Be aggressive, attack, have answers, run plays that are good versus more stuff. That makes sense. Offenses are doing that to us. They're running bubbles and shallows and get the ball out of your hand quick because they don't want to have to scheme up all day a perfect beater to every single defense. And every single defense in today's football, if you watch, is playing a lot of the same shells. So it's like they're playing show 4, show 0, like how they do out in Minnesota. show all out blitz, get the offense to check into something, and then get out of it. They're forcing the hand of the offense. And that's actually more fun. If you go into a game and you dictate the tempo, you're always going to have more fun. I'm a defensive guy. I live by making adjustments to stuff. I get all that, but times are changing. And unfortunately, if you play a game where you're always behind or always trying to just have a set of rules, it's going to get you at some point. Somebody's going to figure you out. In Madden, you probably can get away with it because not everybody tries to play it at the high intellectual level that we do here in this channel. But at the same time, we will also want to mimic what's happening in real life. And that's where like the Raven style defense comes into play. That's where everybody is asking me to do a book on Flores because you want to blitz. You want to get after it. You want to set the tempo. You want to put the offense in a position where they can only run certain plays. They're scared. All right. All right, man. You guys got any questions, comments, concerns? Let me know. Hope you like this video. I think this is a crucial part too that it's really going to help us out for the next video when we start breaking down more concepts, and I'm going to continue with my toolbox and things like that for different formations. All right. Okay. I'll talk to y'all later, man. Peace.